Hey, Nick McDonald here. Now, I just wanted to share with you something that's come up with a couple of my new clients that I've just taken on around how they were thinking about their pricing, right? And because they were thinking that markup was margin. I marked something up by 40%, so therefore I'm making 40% margin, and you're not. And when I explained this to both of them, there was like an aha moment. Oh, this is why I've got no money, right? And largely it is because the pricing way that they've gone about pricing and their pricing structure and strategy has been fundamentally flawed, as completely wrong. So I just want to explain this to you in the hope that if this is happening to you, that you get this and you can make these adjustments, right? So markup isn't margin, right? What do I mean? So really simply put, I'm just going to use some super simple numbers. If you've got your cost of equipment, right, so you've got equipment and materials, let's just say, that comes in at $1,000. Now if you're thinking, okay, I'm going to mark them up by 40%, so I'm going to mark it up by 40%. What that means is your markup here is $400. Now that $400, that turns into your gross margin. And from this $400 here, right, you have to pay for everything else. You have to pay for your insurance, your gas, your overhead, your rent, all of that stuff. Your accountant needs to come out of your gross margin. So the money that you make from actually delivering your service, your gross margin pays for everything else. And if you're thinking I'm gonna get a 40% margin. A 40% markup will give me a 40% margin, then you're wrong. Because what happens is, if you do that, and I know you're going to add labour in and stuff like that as well, but just on this, for this point here, when you add this up, right, your sales price, if this is all you did, right, is $1,400. Now, you've got $400 here of gross margin, right, on $1,400. That means your gross margin is only 28.5%, right? A gross margin, which is nowhere near enough. Now, if you've been thinking, oh, I'm marking everything up by 40%, I'm marking everything up by 60%, right? I should be in the money, and you're not in the money. This is why. Because this figure here, right, this figure, your gross margin figure, the amount of money, the cash dollars that you're left with, should be at least 50% of your costs, at least. Right, so when you're marking stuff up, a really simple rule of thumb, right? Pricing, it can get a bit complicated, but a really simple rule of thumb is that you take all of your cost of your equipment, right? So you've got equipment and materials, right? And then you've got the cost of your labor, right? And then you've got the cost of your finance, right? Anything else that goes into your cost of goods, all this is your cost of goods. Your cost of goods, right? And then you times that by 2. Really simply, if you times it by 2, that will give you a 50% gross margin, right? Really, really simply put, right? If you times that by 40%, right? If you were to do all of that and then to just times this lot by 40%, you would get a 28% margin, like up here. So it's really, truly important that you understand that, right? Now, pricing models are a bit too complicated sometimes to explain in a short video. But if you're making this mistake, if you're thinking, I'm marking stuff up by 40%, therefore I should have a 40% margin, you don't. It's important that you understand that you have less than 30% margin. And in most businesses, their expenses, right, their general operating expenses are around 30%. So this is why most small businesses, right, especially in the home services space, barely break even, right? Barely break even because their expenses are 30% and their gross margin is 30%. So after they've paid everything else, there's nothing left. Don't let that be you. This is Nick saying keep smiling. I hope this has helped you, and I'll talk to you soon.